Big up to everyone, lovely family and lovely friends out there, wherever you're watching Awini Unity platform from. Thank you so much, and I do really appreciate your time once again. Today is Friday, so I'm going to be taking you back to a lot of African players back of the days. Africa are blessed with a lot of great players from many years ago, still having a lot of players out there. Growing up as a young boy many years ago, there's a lot of players that used to entertain us, but now most of these players are retired from football. As a football fans, as a football people, I think the players that entertained us many years ago, like I said, it is good to always try to celebrate these players and try to also remember what impact they make in the society, particularly the continent of Africa. So for that reason, I came out with 30 players that come out from African countries, perform very well when it comes to Europe, both in the national teams. Oh my goodness. So today, Friday, I sat down and I remember these players, and I really miss these players. They are playing this, and I do believe that the movement I'm going through with some of these players I'm talking about, you're going to sit down there and say, wow, I do really miss this player as well. But let me take your time a little bit, like always, whatever you are watching a Awini Unity platform and you want a lot of things right here in Spain, Intercop is the right company for you. You own a ship and you want to come to Spain for maintenance and you want shipping agency to supply you a lot of goods, do not go nowhere. Contact Intercop. You are right here in Europe and you want to ship a lot of things back to Africa, just contact Intercop. You can visit our website www.intercop.com and also pick the number on your screen and get much more information. So very quick one. I'm going to start in from the number 30 player coming down to the number 1. So let's start from former South Africa international, former Ajax player, former Everton, Steven Pienaar, and you can see him in the screen. Steven Pienaar, one of the greatest players back of the days. Steven Pienaar, Ajax Steven Pienaar, Goodison Park in Everton. Oh my goodness, what a player. Steven Pienaar, we can never forget about Steven Pienaar, and we really appreciate all the entertainment they give to us as Africans in the whole world. Moving to the next player is Taiwo. Do you remember this player? One of the player, former Nigeria international, former Olympic Marseille player, Taiwo. One of the player that when they stand in free kick, what player can you say this player will have shot more than Taiwo? One of the greatest players, Taiwo, in French League 1, Nigeria national team. Moving to the Congolese international, former Newcastle player, Lumano Lualua. Oh my goodness. Do you remember Lumano Lualua? One of the greatest players back 2005, 2006, English Premier League with Newcastle. Coming to 2007 with Newcastle, Lumano Lualua, the Congolese international. One of the greatest players. I hope you watching this video right now, you will also say, wow, I do really miss. Maybe some of you may know this player, some of you may not. But that is one of the greatest players Africa produced. Going for our next player is former Nigeria international, former Stoke City, former West Bromwich chairman, Peter Odinwingie. Who remember Peter Odinwingie? When it comes to skills, talent, oh my goodness, Africa is so blessed. Trust me, Africa is so blessed. Produce these players. Moving to our next player is former Ghanaian international, former AC Milan player, former Fiorentina player, former Osasuna player, former Las Palmas player, former Tottenham player, former Dortmund player, former Saka 04, name former and the one and only former Barcelona player Kevin Prince Boateng. Oh my goodness. The few time this guy had in AC Milan, he showed the world that yes, they are capable of doing a lot of things when it comes to football. Do you remember Kevin Prince Boateng? Wonderful goal against Barcelona. And Kevin Prince Boateng is the only Ghanaian player who play for the Catalan side, the giant of Europe, Barcelona. Whether you like it or not, he's the only Ghanaian player who play for Barcelona. He have that on his CV. Successful in England, Italy, Spain, with Las Palmas, Bundesliga, Turkish Super League. Oh my goodness. Great player. Moving to Didier Drogba, one of the greatest players, former Ivorian international, former Tottenham Hotspur player back of the days. One of the greatest defensive midfielders. Now, where can you get these players? One of the greatest defensive midfielders, Didier Drogba. Oh my goodness. Now, let's move to the next player is Angola international and former Al Ahly, the Egyptian giant club. Former this Angola player, you can see him, Fabio. One of the greatest players back his playing days. If you are going to meet Angola and one of these players are there, trust me, when Ghana play against Angola, it wasn't an easy game. And the reason why these players are part of my list, he's one of the greatest players that helped Angola for them to qualify their first ever World Cup back up 2006 in Germany. And he's Angola first ever player to score their first ever World Cup goal back 2006, Fabio. Oh my goodness. Let's move to one of the legends. Former Ghana international, former Zamalek, a lot of players, a lot of clubs. The late Junior Agogo, may his soul rest in peace. Who remember Junior Agogo? If you do not remember Junior Agogo in the club side, not the national team, Ghana Black Stars, can 2008. People are holding their ladies, their kids, their guests, giving Agogo by force, by power. My goodness, the late Junior Agogo, whatever it is, may so rest in perfect peace. We celebrate you, Agogo. We try to remember the good thing, the impact you have given to us, the continent in Africa, the whole world, football fans. One love, Agogo. Let's move on to former Beninois, one of the greatest players, Razak Motoyosi. My goodness, do you remember Razak Motoyosi? Back of the days when Ghana are going to meet Benin, and you see Razak Motoyosi in the midfield, no one will tell you that yes, this is man. And do you remember Razak Motoyosi can 2008 Nigeria against Benin? The way, oh my goodness, one of the greatest players, Razak Motoyosi. Let's move to the next player. Is former Nigeria international, former Everton, Yakubu Ayugbeni. One of the greatest players that I know the whole Africa, the whole world missing. All these players retire from football, but we still try to remember that the impact, the love they make in the world particular Africa, we celebrate these players today, Friday. Yakubu Ayugbeni in the English Premier League and Nigeria national team. Do you remember back 2010 when Yakubu Ayugbeni missed that goal against South Korea? He could not believe it because the love is there. When they come for this player playing for their country, you can see the passionate, you can see the desire. Yakubu Ayugbeni, when he missed that ball, he gets shaking the head like this and chewing the chewing gum. Oh my goodness. Yakubu Ayugbeni, we celebrate you wherever you are watching Awini Unity platform. Moving to, we are taking you to Avoria International. And when we are in Avoria International, where are we taking you? We are taking you to the bridge, Tamford Bridge. And who is that? Solomon Kalou. Solomon Kalou, one of the greatest players Africa ever have. Solomon Kalou. Back at Tamford Bridge, Solomon Kalou alongside so many players. I will come into them. Oh my goodness. We miss players. Africa, we are blessed. Produce a lot of players. If you from Tamford Bridge or Cote d'Ivoire, we are going to Mali. Mali. Former Mali international, former Sevilla international, former Barcelona, Seydou Keita, one of the greatest players Africa produced. And when you are sitting down watching these players, they are playing this. You could see clearly on their faces the energy that they play the football. They play with passion. Especially when they come to the national team, you could see how when they are playing, the way they are shouting their players, the way they are commanding, you can see the energy. Seydou Keita, one of the greatest players Africa produced. From Seydou Keita, we are moving to the one and only, the greatest, one of the greatest, former Ghanaian international, former star Renette in France, former Sunderland, Asamoah Gyan, one of the greatest player. And if I get my research right, he's the only player have a lot of World Cup goals aside Roger Miller. The reason why I'm not going to talk about Roger Miller and Abedi Pele and all those players, I do not really watch their football like the way I watch those players that I can sit down, remember a lot of things about them. That is why I choose to talk about these players. So, Asamoah Gyan, if you do not remember Asamoah Gyan in the English Premier League, not in a World Cup, Asamoah Gyan, first ever World Cup goal for Ghana and great in South Africa. So, Asamoah Gyan, one love. Moving from Asamoah Gyan or the Ghana one and only, the only player, the only goalkeeper that make my list is the greatest, a Cameroonian international, former Espanyol, former Malaga, former Fenerbahce player, Kamini. Africa produce a lot of players, but when it comes to goalkeepers, we do not normally produce a lot of great long keepers that we normally have goalkeepers that are doing well for the national team, but when it comes to club side, we don't produce a lot of goalkeepers. So Kamini is one of the greatest goalkeeper Africa produced, and he becomes successful in the Spanish La Liga, conquer everywhere with Espanyol, from there with Malaga, name them, went to the Turkish Super League, conquered there as a goalkeeper. That's the reason why Kamini make my list, and I do believe that you miss Kamini as well. From the Cameroon International, I'm taking you to one of the greatest, the player that have love for Africa, a player that believe in Africa, a player that believe that you can succeed working in Africa or playing football in Africa. And who is that? I'm taking you to one of the greatest, the Egyptian king. And who is that? You may think that Mohamed Salah. No. The Egyptian king, Mohamed Aboutrika. Mohamed Aboutrika. It is the only player who played for Africa and refused to go to Europe. Arsenal offered this guy great a lot of huge amount of money, so many great clubs, Liverpool, so many clubs. He refused to move to Europe. He said, I believe in Africa. I was born in Africa, and I will work in Africa, and I will die in Africa. One of the only, Mohamed Aboutrika. They're one of the greatest players Africa produced. One of Mohamed Boutrika. Now, let's move to Kolo Toure, the former Ivorian international, former Arsenal, former Liverpool, former Manchester City. Kolo Toure, one of the greatest players that Africa produced. And today is Friday. We miss these players, and I do believe that you miss these players as well. From Kolo Toure, I'm taking you to Zimbabwe, one of the greatest players that ever come from Zimbabwe in the continent of Africa. Former Zimbabwe international, former Manchester City international. Oh my goodness. Benjani Wari. Who remember Benjani? If you are a fan of football and you follow football for a very long time, you will know the player that I'm talking about. Back of the days, especially 2005, 2006, 2007, Benjani, when he scored goal like this. Do you remember Benjani? Yeah, this is the celebration of Benjani. Those days when you have Benjani and you have Robinho, former Brazilian player, Robinho now in prison. Oh my goodness, Benjani, one of the greatest players back in Manchester City. My goodness. When Benjani was signed into Manchester City, sorry, you know, Benjani up edition a little bit. A lot of people was like, can Benjani play? But if you grew up, you follow Premier League back 2005, 2006, come 2007, Benjani, one of the greatest players African produced. Benjani Wari. So moving from the Manchester City man, Benjani, and the former Zimbabwe, let's take you to one of the greatest as well. I'm taking you back to Mali. Former Mali international, former Sevilla, name. Without this player, no Ferry Kanute, no Sevilla. Who know Ferry Kanute back of the days in La Liga? When it comes to Europa League, when it comes to Spanish La Liga, the moment you see things are very tough with Sevilla and Ferry Kanute, Meglade, gonna come right now. One of the greatest players, Ferry Kanute. And when you are going to play against Mali and these players are there, trust me, you're going to find it difficult. Ferry Kanute. Moving to one of the greatest player African produced, the Nigerian international, former Arsenal player. Name them. Name the clubs. Name the achievement. Onwako Kano, one of the greatest player African produced. Back in the days when I sit down and I'm watching Onwako Kano playing in Arsenal, a lot of clubs back in England. Today, Friday, I really miss these players, to be honest. I sit down sometimes and ask myself that. Now, we have some players, and when they come out, they think, they are the players ever Africa produced. Moving from the Nigerian international, I'm taking you back to South Africa. One of the greatest players that Africa produced. Former South Africa, former Wigan Athletic, former Porto, Benny McCarthy. Benny is the only South African player who won the English Premier League with back 2004 that way with Porto. Back of the days with Jose Mourinho. McCarthy won the English Premier League, the only South African player. One of the greatest players, former Orlando Pirates as well. One of the greatest players Africa produced. Moving to one of the greatest players African produced if not one of the greatest captain. Oh my goodness. I'm taking you. We cannot talk without going to Zambia, the Tipulopolo. That is Christopher Katongo. If you do not remember Christopher Katongo, not back, I think 2012, when they won the African Cup of Nations in their history, one of the greatest captain. When they are leading team, you can see the passionate that they have, and who, I know some of you know, and some of you that do not know, Christopher Katongo used to be a soldier. Get to a point and say, no, I don't want to continue this soldier job. I want to play. I want to help my country to achieve something. When it comes to football, I can play. That is where Christopher Katongo drop all the uniform and go to the national team. And when he lead, the story was great. When he lead Zambia, he told the guys that we can make it happen. We are capable going there beating everyone. And truly, they met one of the greatest, the giant of African countries, teams like Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, name them. They beat most of all the country and they won the African Cup of Nations the first time. Christopher Katongo. Moving from Christopher Katongo and taking you back to Ghana, one of the greatest captain that Africa produced, not just only Ghana, but one of the greatest captain, a captain that when passionate about the game, knowing how to lead the guys in the field, both upsetting. My goodness. Former Udinese, former Fenerbahce, Steven Appiah. He's the first captain who took the Ghana national team first ever World Cup in 2006. And they do not just went to Germany to watch Germany, but they went there showing that yes, Ghana, we are here. And we are not just here to joke. We are here to show the world what we have. And that is one of the greatest captain I can say in my generation. I young man watching football, I can put him that he's one of the greatest captain Africa produced, to my personal opinion, Steven Appiah. Moving from Steven Appiah, I'm taking you to one of the greatest, call it. There is no way you will sit down watch this player and you feel boring. The former Nigeria international, former Paris Saint-Germain international, former Bolton Wanderers international, name JJ Okocha. Oh my goodness. When you're sitting down watching JJ Okocha, you can never feel boring watching JJ Okocha. This case, what else? Africa is so blessed. So today, Friday, we're trying to celebrate these players. And I know that you that are watching this video, you also miss these players. JJ Okocha. From JJ Okocha, I'm taking you to one of the greatest players, the last 6. Former Senegalese international, former Wingers player, former Wigan Athletic, former Liverpool player. And who is that? Alagi Diouf. One of the greatest player. I would say that is the first Balotelli. That is the first Balotelli. One of the controversial players Africa produced. And one thing I love about Alagi Diouf do not just fight in the field, but Alagi Diouf is a player who speaks his mind. That is one thing I love about Alagi Diouf. I love people that speak their mind. I love people that when they are doing something that maybe you want to kid them or you want to force them to do what is not right, they will stand up and speak. Alagi Diouf don't care if you are his former teammate. Look at him with Gerrard, the Scottish Championship. Alagi Diouf is always showing to the people out there, hey, listen, We are not here to joke as Africans, so you cannot tell me what I have to do. That is Alagi Diouf, one of the greatest players that Africa produced. English Premier League, you remember 2002, they saw France that yes, you can stand Senegal, and they saw France Pepe back in 2002, Alagi Diouf, one of the greatest. From Alagi Diouf, we are going to the Togolese international, former Arsenal player, former Manchester City player, former Tottenham Hotspur player, former Real Madrid player, former Crystal Palace player, Emmanuel Adebayo, one of the greatest. Back 2005, 2006, 2007, when you're watching Arsenal. Oh my goodness, when Adebayo score goals, the dancing alone, Emmanuel Adebayo, one of the greatest players. And the reason why Adebayo in my top 5, you know, I'm aside from players 30, now I'm in the top 5. The reason why Adebayo make the top 5, Adebayo leads his country, not just about what the impact he made in the English Premier League, but he leads his country to the qualified Togo for their first ever World Cup back 2006. Emmanuel Adebayo, moving to one of the greatest, former Nigeria international, former Chelsea player, John Obi, one of the greatest players that Africa produced. There was the time for break. Without those players, no Nike, no time for break. Trust me, one of the greatest. Moving to, we are still in time for break. Former Ghana international, former Lyon player, former Chelsea, former Real Madrid, former Olympiacos. Name them. Michael Essien. Do you remember Michael Essien? One of the greatest goal against Barcelona and one of the greatest goal against Liverpool. Oh my goodness. We really miss these players, to be honest. Moving, one of the greatest, Ivorian international, former Chelsea player, one of the greatest. That is the top 2. That is one of the greatest. Won the English Premier League, Club World Cup, Champions League. Name them. Didier Drogba. Africa produced a lot of great players. Didier Drogba. Do you remember the celebration of Didier Drogba? Do you remember the goals against Bayern Munich? The header. Do you remember the penalty? Champions League winner. Drogba, whatever you are watching the Awini Unity platform, one love. We celebrate you. One love. The whole Africa celebrate you. The whole world celebrate you. And we will never forget the impact you guys put in the world, particularly Africa and football fans. We celebrate you today, Friday. And the one and only, the Cameroon international, Barcelona, former Barcelona player, former Inter Milan player, former Chelsea player, name Samuel Eto'o, one of the greatest players that Africa produced. Samuel Eto'o, the greatest player, won the Spanish La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League, Club World Cup. He moved to Italy, conquer Italy as well, won the Champions League with Inter Milan, moved to Chelsea very well. My goodness, Samuel Eto'o. What else? Africa produced a lot of great players. So this is the end of this video. Thank you very much. Tell me, what player do you think that the player deserves to make the list? My 30 players that ever come from Africa, our time watching football. What player do you think that I think why? Awini Unity platform, I think this player really deserves to make your list, but he didn't make the list. Tell me, what player do you think that he deserved to make the list and I didn't make. And all these players, what player do you actually miss? These 30 players, what player normally come into your mind when you are watching football and sometimes you want players to play how you want them to play and they are not playing like that? What player normally come into your mind? All these 30 players. Let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I take your memory back the days when you're watching Premier League, La Liga, Italian Serie A, French League 1. Thank you very much once again. I really appreciate your time, whatever you may be watching Awini Unity platform. One love.